Prologue, Part 1. What color of darkness made blind the eyes of a god of light? With what hand can one's fingers trace the full quantity of nothing? Can a tongue, cut from its mouth, taste the full measure of the emptiness left behind? Such is the void that lay at the heart of the betrayer, whose shame doomed the very world. Such is the legacy of his sins. Death eternal to you, Malakaros the liar. May you be forever blinded in the ninth hell. The condemnation of Malakaros, first stanza. Melchiora Aeon. Melchiora Aeon led the forces that had followed his call to what he knew would be their deaths. He rode above the prow of the lead warship as it plunged violently through the wine-dark waves, falling and rising again. The ship's wicked, metal-tipped battering ram breached the water's surface each time it crested a rise. To the men on the ship, it seemed as if the very world was consumed by wind and indigo darkness in the spray of white water. Every man gripped his oar in white-knuckled hands and rowed for his very life. The squall buffeted the small fleet of triremes to near breaking, at the same time filling their sails until their seams looked ready to fly apart, pushing the ships toward the dark island at a punishing speed. Melchiora Aeon, known as Malakaros to these human men whose tongues could not form his true name, was unbothered by the wind he had summoned. His eyes, like black pools coated in iridescent oil, peered into the darkness. He stood from his crouch at the bow, rising to his full 8-foot height, long arms steadying himself against the wind on rigging ropes far out of the reach of even the tallest man. His elu skin, shirtless to the waist and as black as the night around him, glittered faintly as the raindrops struck. His skin could taste the water, could even taste the individual minerals in the water as the drops ran down his back. He had suppressed most of that sense for the moment, but the alkaline salts and other trace elements in the rainwater played at the edges of his mind. The many senses of his kind could be quieted temporarily, but rarely silenced. The delicate, crystalline structures in his forehead resonated in his sensory stream as the ship passed from one probability field into another. This, too, he quieted and directed his focus on his task. Before the dawn's first light, he intended to kill 7 others of his kind. He had sworn, before the sight of the All-Watcher, he would wake from the dream those who had enslaved the sentience of this world. He would sever them from the consonants, even his own son. As he ducked low under the sail toward the rear of the ship, he passed between the banks of human oarsmen heaving against the storm. The oar-caller shouted the tempo with the men just short of a scream to be heard over the raging wind. The few who were able to raise their faces toward Melchiora Aeon seemed to redouble their exhausted effort. They looked up, wide-eyed at his smooth, noseless face with equal reverence and fear. Seeing that expression, familiar feelings of disgust rose within him. Melchiora Aeon's kind had used violence and abuse to train these sentients to be obedient over the course of many generations. They had ripped their history from them and used them as pawns in their petty conflicts as if they were little more than animals to be slaughtered. He reached the command platform, where 7 figures in oiled rain-cloaks clung to the railing as 2 well-muscled oarsmen did battle with the ship's twin steering oars. "My lord!" barked a broad-chested older man with a braided grey and black beard, struggling to raise his voice over the wind. He pulled back his hood, with a hand missing its index and small fingers, revealing a silver circlet on his forehead. He shouted, fighting to be heard in the din. "With this wind at our back, we must be close to the island by now. What of the black coral?" The ship pitched as it crested a wave. Wood creaked and men cried out in alarm. The Elu regarded the human king. The man's eyes held determination, but there was fear he could not hide in his voice. "Kithra's reefs can take a ship even in the day, my lord." He hesitated. "Even in calm seas. We are prepared to die in this fight if the All-Watcher wills it, but there is no honor in drowning." The human king let the question hang as rain streamed down his face and beard. Melchiora Aeon turned away without answering, instead stepping between the oarsmen and taking both of the heavy steering oars, one in each of his massive hands. He turned his attention inward, focusing on the pinprick sensation of the particles of magnetite in his nervous system as they pulled subtly northward along this planet's magnetic field. The two men looked in awe as Melchiora Aeon opened his eyes and smoothly turned the steering oars they had been battling with all their strength without as much as a flicker of strain. The ship groaned, as if sensing the tension, and it leaned and changed course in response. The towering figure scanned the black water ahead with his oil-slick eyes and straightened the rudders, handing them back. Too much wind could push them into the corals at this distance. With an effort, the rebel Elu eased the part of his mind connected to the wild pressure changes and atmospheric chaos feeding the windstorm. He felt the change in pressure first, before it happened, and as he did, he pulled reality into alignment with his senses. He diverted the energy of the wind and used it to compress a protective barrier of thick, wet air around the small fleet. Sailors rubbed at popping ears as a dome of air pressure formed around the lead ship, shunting the still-blowing winds away from the sails. He raised his right hand toward the trailing ships, and his palm and fingers began to glow with a bright, white-blue light. As he waved his hand at the following vessels, the light from his palm, almost painfully bright, left a trailing afterimage in the air that the men on deck tried to blink away. From a longbow shot back, a similar handwave of liquid light broke the darkness and the chaos of the wind and rain, rising and falling in the rough sea. Heartbeats later, more flashes appeared, but these were the ordinary flame yellow of signal lanterns, not the hand-talk of gods. Melchiora Aeon flowed through a series of gestures, and his fingers left light trails and afterimages against the dark sky. The hand on the other ship talked back, conversing in their bright language. Finally, he reached his long arm down below the stern railing and pressed his hand into the rear hull, making the wood hiss as if a branding iron had been pressed into it, and leaving a bright, glowing handprint for the other ships to follow. Over long minutes, the triremes fell into a line, sticking tightly inside the wake of the lead warship. He turned back to the bearded man. "Do not fear the reefs, Ilarian king among men." The Elu's voice was haunting in how close to human it sounded. To the ear, the voice could have been the rich baritone of a merchant or philosopher. It was the hum, like a buzzing underneath the sound, that marked it at the edge of the listener's perception as something otherworldly. "It was my kind that raised the corals around Kithra. They are creatures touched by the hand of Bizal, and not the last we shall face if we seek to breach the island. My eyes can see what yours cannot in this storm. I will guide us through." The bearded man looked upward at the impassive face and muscular, onyx-skinned body of the being he knew only as a deity towering above him. Melchiora Aeon made the hand sign of trust, his fingers still leaving faint trails of light in the darkness, and he clapped a huge hand around the king's shoulder. The king met his gaze, rain streaking his face. "My men are ready! They have made use of the little time they had!" The Elu regarded the grim-faced men as the ship pitched over a wave. "You have done well, my friend. Fear of my kind runs deep in your people. You rallied more men than I expected to your call. We will need every last one. We are a free people, my lord. We have not forgotten that, at least. Every man we sail with wants to put a dagger in the Golden One's eye. Many others would have sworn to you with a little more time. Melchior Aeon hummed. Time is the one thing my kind will never allow us. If the 7 stand against us in force, 100 ships of men would be as meaningless as 5. They will be vulnerable on the island, attuning to the consonants, but time will be short. When the black figure drew his hand away, it left fading flecks of light on the oiled cloth. Ilarion made the gesture of determination, and the Eliu made the gesture of honor in return. You and I stand on the meeting point of 2 eternities, the past and the future. The fate of this world balances on the blade of the present moment, and the All-Watcher blesses those who walk its edge. The ship crested a wave, but the king held on and looked up, locked onto the night-black face of his patron god. I owe you my thanks, king among men. You were the first to stand with me on this world. I have revealed much to you, but this shall be my last revelation. Rios, Tros, Bizal, Jagadrian, Niayesh, Isael. He hesitated before speaking the final name. Ralikeon, my kin. They intend to commune with the consonants, the connected perception of all my kind, a tiny piece of the dream of the All-Watcher. In these forms, it will take all of them working together to touch the consonants, and longer if Rios sets one of my kind to keep watch. Once they sing the dream, they will not wake quickly. That is our one chance to free this world. Melchior Aeon reached into a pouch at his side and withdrew what looked like a square of midnight black silk, bundled around something. He held out his hand to Ilarion and unfolded the corners, revealing what looked like a dark metal robin's egg. One final oath pearl, made of my own blood. The strongest I have ever brought forth into this world. Free from Rios's touch. It will be my last gift to you, if you wish to take the bond. He offered the spheroid to Ilarion, who took it, looking at it with wary eyes, feeling the incongruously heavy weight of the thing in his palm. He closed his fist around it and nodded.